Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben and this is my first team reveal for 2024. Chris and Swizz and myself got together for a little bit of a podcast and we'll get that up to you as well. But look, welcome back. Supercoach is open. The trades are aplenty and everyone is divided with their own opinion, and that's fine. But we'll just get on with business and talk about some possible strategies in order to have some success. And speaking of strategies, that has been very different. Chris and Swizz released some pretty good content. Obviously, the quality is better right here because, let's face it, my quality is better. So, look, it's really great to have you on board. The thing I love about what we offer anyway is that Chris, Swizz, myself have different opinions. Our teams are different, our thoughts are different, and you can kind of pick and choose and actually see the inner workings of each and every one of our teams throughout the whole season. So each week when the season is kicking off, people can actually log in, check out, and say, hey, my team's similar to Swizz, or I like how he thinks about this situation. And it gives you a little bit of a deeper insight into us, our team, and why we're making the decisions we do. And it's probably one of the most successful parts of our journey. But before we move on, SC Insider 100, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, all the audio platforms as well, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it. And on YouTube, just definitely get on there. Supercoach Insider, like, subscribe, it's kicking off. We're a little bit later this preseason, mainly because last year and the year before that we kicked off some December, January, early January content, but people weren't really digesting it as much, so we thought we'll wait till Supercoach opens. And because of the nature with injuries, shifts, trades, like 40 trades now, the round zero, all of these things, it's a working environment, so we're best to record a little bit later, knowing that people won't really go back in time because the information and data changes. So you will definitely get plenty from us this preseason in the meantime. But hey, that is pretty much the nice early introduction. I've got a blank canvas here. Pretty much my forward line will be a blank canvas. I've already recorded with Chris and Swizz tonight, so I'm on a little bit of whiskey. So shout out to anyone that follows us on Twitter. Have a nice photo up on Twitter of the whiskey cabinet I do have at the moment. Really enjoying it. So I know it's really hot, so I'm not drinking as much at the moment. But this latest one, it's an absolute steal. Craig Allerkey. And oh, wow, look at that green screen kicking in. It's pretty much transparent. 13-year-old, extremely good buy. Oily. It's good. So this is what I'll be sipping on if I get a chance to have a sip, because it's just me. It's just me. All right, so I'm going to start in the defensive line. Explain a couple of the reasonings for this is no way a perfect system. I'm kind of looking at what other people are doing. The thing that annoys me a little bit the most, and it's not the trades. Like, yes, I would like 30 trades, but what are you going to do? I am more of a glass half full kind of guy. I don't stress about things I can't control. And I know some people have anxiety about the things going on around them in their general life, or, worrying about what could happen or if this happens. I try and just deal with what's in front of me. So if I can't control it, there's no point in me stressing, because Supercoach will make that decision and then I will just get on with business and then go, okay, well, it is what it is. I can't influence that decision. I have even chatted to Tim Mitchell, Al Patton, and a few others as well, just about my thoughts in the off-season. But I don't have much weight to pull. I just deal with whatever is dealt as well. So look, we have 40 trades, which in itself is going to change strategies. The thing that annoys me isn't the changes. I'll just deal with that. It's more about sometimes you try a strategy last year, and then if the rules are the same, the trades are the same, you can kind of pick and choose. This worked well. Maybe I went too early here. Maybe I went too early here. Chris's whole life story. But you try and go, okay, this worked well, and I'll try and change this a little bit. This worked well, so maybe I'll wait a little bit longer, or I'll go that mid-price strategy and look to be aggressive, or rookies worked out pretty well with, the sub rule, so I can kind of have a couple more of those. I know it is person dependent, but the strategy you kind of go in with changes again because you now have more trades, so then you have to adjust. So that's the part that annoys me, and it's not the changes, it's the fact that I don't really have any data to help justify the decisions I am going to make. So you're trying to use a bit of logic, a bit of assumption, and to try and come up with something that looks like best practice. So that's where we are at with my rationale for this team. So I'll explain everything as we go. Let's go and let's pick a few people. Defense is the easiest. I mean, let's face it. So where it does differ a little bit is I am going to, if I can move some of these people here. Let's go with, I'm just going to filter. You won't be able to see this other part of it. So I'm going to bring in, let's go some premiums first of all. So I'm going to go Sicily, Tom Stewart, and I'm going to go Hayden Young as my first three. Now, my strategy as far as premiums, and don't worry about day cost. He may come in a little bit in the future, and you'll see. But I'm looking for high ceiling players with high hurt factor. So Sicily, I know he tailed off a little bit at the back end of the year, but he's also the guy that can go 170, 160. So I'm looking at that as the option. I know you have to pay a little bit for them, but I do have quite a bit of faith that he will be around that top 6. So I'm looking at those players that should be top 6, but also have high ceiling. The reason I'm after hurt factor is because it is best 18. So I don't want, a lot of the rookies will probably score quite similarly. So the issue is, and it's been so long that I keep saying so because I'm bloody rusty. It's been a lot of months. I will get better. I'm looking at hurt factor for the main reason that you're going to have a lot of rookies on the bench, hopefully some loophole during the bye rounds, which makes it interesting because they might score 60, 70. You might pick up 10 points, 20 points from one rookie. It might not make as much difference. Premiums, I don't want a guy who's just going to be hitting 90 to 105 and that consistent kind of player. I want someone that's going to hurt the opponents. I want someone who could get priced out for everyone else. I want someone who, during a bye round, when it is best 18, absolutely just dominates and kills everyone. That's what I'm looking for, which means Sicily, high ceiling. Stewart, high ceiling. The other one I am actually considering, and I could be swayed on, even though they do play round 0, Himmelberg, great price, scored a couple of 120s, I think, to finish the season. They're now cementing him in the back line, and they're not mixing him around, so he could get some good stability. They play a couple of weak opponents, which means he could just rack up and absolutely dominate, possibly. That's what I'm looking at, depending on round 0. Himmelberg is definitely someone that can get in my side. Only 4% owned, which I expect if he goes fairly well, round 0, that will jump up a lot. That's where I'm looking at with the high hurt, high factor, which is where Dacos does come in. I should probably put you out of your misery because I'm just going to... Dacos I've actually got in my midfield, and the main reason being is I'm waiting for a little bit of the dust to settle in that midfield. Dacos, I know he might come up with some tags. I'm going to wait again for round 0 to see how he performs, how the role performs. But based on hurt factor, ceiling, most likely chance to be top 6, I'm trying to secure as many of those people that I believe will be top 6 as possible, and then taking some risks with some others based on role, upside, and price. But I don't want to have too many corrections. And I definitely don't want to be trying to sideways flip guys just because they've had 1 or 2 price rises and then I'm going to make me 70k and burn a trade. Chris and Swizz, that's talking to you. I think there's probably a better way to do it. Now, the way I'm looking at it is, yes, I want to be aggressive. I want to try and upgrade, which is where your Fifes, your Williams, any of those mid prices, your Chapmans come into it. And that's the kind of strategy that I am looking at and trying to use those trades to be aggressive to improve my side and not go sideways, and then use the additional trades to maybe help for injuries, yes, but then try and flip to either get cover and loopholes, which we haven't really had in the past sometimes because of the injuries and the rest of it. But the other part is then if someone's not top 10, you actually have those trades to flip them at their buy and then get another premium in with a good run or a better average and maximize points for the buy you would have had, which will pick you up a premium for that round, a full premium, not a sideways on a best 18 when you have everyone playing anyway, and then you'll have them for the rest of the year picking up those points. And I think that's a better use of a trade and picking up more points than the old sideways Hopperoo, Chris, and Swizz. And they gave me so much crap. Oh, well, if you'd release a podcast, those boys. I said, mate, you've released 1 episode. You've done 1 more than me. And yes, it hurts. And yes, they said it multiple times, and I don't know why I'm biting. ladies and gentlemen. For me, Zach Williams is definitely in that mix there. Caulfield, I'm just going by percentage at this point. Gibkiss is definitely that also in the mix. Caulfield, I'll probably like to try and push to the bench. I am looking at Chapman. The main reason being is that I do want to see the role. I know there could be some cheaper options there. I know it's not there. However, I would like to. I've said nice things about him. I do like him as a player, and if I ever want to back someone in, now's the time before I throw him out and under the bus at a later date. But I think he's a good player that can intercept, that has good disposal, and is possible to get the wing role. We will wait and see. So that's the person I would like to have in my side. And then the other one that's not really spoken about much is, I think he's 1% owned, and he was a first round pick for the Doggies, and it's Bustlinger. Now, Bustlinger was, it's harsh to compare exactly the type of player he was. However, he was someone that had a very efficient disposal. He had a high kick to handball ratio, so that's really great for Supercoach. I'm thinking like a Stuart sort of Sicily type in the mold, more like a Sicily, tall, good hands, kicks more than handballs. It's perfect for Supercoach. Now, if he does get a role, and I'm putting him here as a bit of a stopgap, I don't know how he's going as far as best 22 at this point. However, has been in the system for 12 months. He is a really quality player. I think it just depends on, where the dust settles with, say, Caulfield, where the dust settles with, Darcy, if he's playing forward, and then how that sort of mixes in with Lob, etc. So that's the consideration I am watching. However, I would rather back someone who's been in the system for, say, 12 months or a mature player than someone fresh off the draft boat, should I say. And I didn't want to really say boat, but look, there we go. And that's my defensive line. So Chapman will be obviously in that mix. Caulfield out over onto the bench. Double dog bench defense. We'll see how that holds up. Otherwise, high hurt factor. Williams, I think, can make some cash. Round zero dependent. Young with the good buy. Chris and Swizz and myself spoke about him highly. Midfield role, I expect to be definitely in that midfield mix through the CBAs. So that way, if he's on a Crip sort of type, trying to be defensive mid, if they win the stoppage, bang, you try and burn the bigger guy on the outside. If they do win the stoppage anyway, they'll try and look to someone like a Young to deliver it inside 50 with his good use of foot, which means that becomes inside 50s, it becomes score assists, etc. And I expect that to happen. I'm not expecting huge clearance numbers per se. It might be quite messy. However, he should get some tackles. My only other concern is that he didn't score as well when he was playing that defensive mid around the ground. So I'm hoping they bring in, say, a Johnson or a Erasmus or someone to become more defensive around the ground and try and free up Young as that, almost like a halfback flanker pushing up to the contest to be that extraction. So when you have a stoppage, handball backwards, Young then can move the ball forward. So it'll be really interesting to see how they play that. But he has the scope to go, I think, in that 100 to 105 bracket based on his good use, his long kick, etc. So playing more midfield might give him some more score assists, etc. inside 50. So there's points to be had there. So I think, he's the one I'm interested in and heavily owned. It's for good reason, but he's also been spoken about a lot, which means he could be one of those hype trap players. So just kind of keep an eye on him. So midfield, Dacos is there. I am looking for, instead of, say, a Bustlinger, a defensive mid. I think there's a couple. Curie could be one. If I missed that up, I could have. If someone gets DPP or a defender mid comes into it, I might look to push, be able to flip that. That would be much better. I'd much rather a defensive mid rookie to help me with coverage during buys, to cover those gaps. So when Williams has a buy in round 2, I'd then be able to throw a premium back there and then a rookie mid onto the field. So I am looking at that option. I'm just waiting for the dust to settle a little bit. And then let's pick my premiums. Now, some people have been a bit thrown off. Bontempelli, pre-season surgery, or off-season surgery, should I say. But he's running. He played some match sim. Yes, he was working his way back, but he had minor ankle surgery as a cleanup. That's not the biggest concern for me. Also, you're looking at, say, what? So Smith's down. Liberatore's role probably won't really change much because he's a one-trick pony. So I don't mind him for those who are interested. However, Bontempelli should have no real change except Bevo, typical Bevo, talking about he might play a little bit more forward. I don't see it, to be honest. I mean, unless you're resting forward, he's their best midfielder. McRae is probably the one to kind of go somewhere else, if anything, and get the ball below their feet. They don't need any more tools in the forward line. I just don't really see how that's going to happen. So when you have a look at their forward caliber, I'm trying to think. There is one I'm missing. So there is Darcy and Lobb, who are obviously very tall. And then it would help if I was in the forward line. And then you've got, let's have a look. So Norton as well. So Norton, Lobb, Darcy, if he plays forward. I mean, I know he can play defense. Ugle-Hagan. I don't see why they need a Bontempelli type forward unless he's resting. Maybe instead of coming off, they'll just rest him forward, which is not really going to change much. I think he is still very, very dominant, and he is someone that I am looking to get in my side. So for me, yeah, Bontempelli, get into my side. Unless anything changes, he is someone who I am confident should be a top sort of 6 mid and a captain option, a VC option. So I would like to lock in that option for me because I do want some consistency. I want some stability. I don't want to be just, throwing a handful of darts at a board and actually hoping something sticks. So that's where I'm sort of looking at for him. I could be tempted. I know it's risk roulette. Clayton Oliver, if he gets up and running and he is low owned, I would love Clayton Oliver to come and play round 2. Round 1, not round 0. Look, see how much they're messing things up. Round 0. If he misses round 0 and plays round 1 and he's low owned like he is now at 1%, I would love to start him in my side. Now, I know it's a gamble, it's a risk, but with the trades you have, now, Clayton Oliver, he's a beast, he's a machine. He doesn't need high time on ground to be absolutely dominant. And the reason why it would interest me, he's broken his hand before and then averaged extremely well. He's carried injuries before and averaged better carrying an injury than he was before that. So he's had multiple surgeries pre-season before and still come out and been a top sort of, 3 premium. He's someone that has dealt with adversity, injury, pre-season injuries, and still come out and dominated. So if you talk about risk-reward with 40 trades, if Clayton Oliver somehow gets up, and I hope he doesn't actually play much pre-season because they want to work on fitness or whatever, I don't know. But he is someone I would really be tempted to bring into my side if he's playing and if he is low owned for the sheer reason that no one else has him. So there you go. However, I don't think you could pick him at this point because we don't know, and there's still some more dust to kind of come out of that mix. I wish Brisbane didn't have the second bye. Now, some might pick, Dunkley, Neil, Walsh. In a perfect world, I would have started Dunkley and Walsh in my side. I think Dunkley he's not changing his role at all. Neil gets a lot of the flack. Dunkley just chips away with his business. Even as a mid only, I still think he's going 115 plus. Very consistent player. The other one, Walsh, I think there's meat on the bone. Final series was crazy good. But with the round 2 bye, I am not leaving points behind on a best 18 format. I just think it's, if you're playing another premium, sure, you get the points for that round that they miss, and then you could change it. The only benefit is, and I don't like to play in hindsight, you have to make a correction trade. A premium you select didn't work out, so therefore you have to go sideways to get Walsh. Now, people that want Walsh might try and pick the most outlandish, risky, risk-reward midfielder around the same price bracket. So you might see someone go, I'm going a Noah Anderson, knowing that if he fires off and goes bang, bang the first couple of rounds, I look like a genius. Absolute genius. Look at this premium I've got. He's low owned. I'm absolutely killing it. Other people wish they had this guy. And then all of a sudden you look awesome. They're almost picking a little bit more risk, hoping that if it goes ahead and it's awesome, you're like, yeehaw, doing the old Frank the Tank, toot your horn sort of scenario. And if it fails, you're like, oh, that's fine. I was just going to get Walsh anyway. And Don't know if that's the right mentality to have, but hey, look, this game allows for lots of different types. So I think it might work. So, I mean, if you do want Walsh, sure, pick someone risky and just say, oh, yeah, look, it didn't work, so I'm going to make a correction trade, and I'm going to bring in this other guy. Oh, look, it's Walsh. How perfect is that? He's been wonderful. Now, I'm against it, but if Walsh looks extremely attractive in round 0, I might even try and figure out a way to get him in my side. So, I don't know. We will see. Again, round 0 is going to sway so much. I mean, if 8 rookies from those 8 teams present and they are must-haves, so it's all of a sudden you might be like, hey, it's guns and rookies. Or if they don't perform and then you're only relying on the data you don't know from the rookies who haven't played yet, all of a sudden the mid-price mix might come into the fold a little bit more. We are going to have to change our team regardless. Once round 0 hits, everyone's team will be out the window, and then people will be scraping it together, being really, really stubborn. Oh, but I like this player. I like this team. I need my 5-6 premiums. It's like, well, no, the format and the formula changes and the strategy changes based on the rookies. And you're not going to know that until A, round 0 is played, and B, the rookies are named for round 1 after round 0. So that's why it's, good to be flexible with your strategy, your structure. That's why it's also pointless to kind of shit on other people's teams at this point. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, this player's no good. It's like, well, have you seen them play a preseason game? Have you seen any more talk come out from the club? Have you seen them play in round 0? Or do you know that you can fit a 7 deep midfield loaded up with premiums? So I just look, when everyone's putting out at the moment, I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll have a look and kind of see how they balance their side or what their strategy might be and chat to them about strategy and their thinking. That's more important to me than who's actually in their side. And that's where when you're listening to other podcasts, whether it's, Dr. Supercoach or obviously going to Center Bounce or going to Supercoach Elites like SC Elites or whoever you're getting into, right? All the YouTubers as well. Supercoach DR, also a good friend of ours, and Spills or whoever you're getting into, and I'm sure I've missed names here. Abdul, I probably should have had up. So what's he called again? The Skodfather. Calm me down. Whatever you're into, I'd be looking at more their strategy and thought process around how they might approach it and change depending on the scenarios and different strategies rather than who's actually in those positions. So the important part for me is you absorb that, have some different ideas in place, so that way when you actually are presented the data with the information, with the players, you can actually go, oh, actually, I'm going to scenario A or a bit of strategy, this strategy B mixed with a bit of strategy E, and then that will be what I'll end up trying to do. It's going to be too hard to try and pick up your strategy and all your players and balance your team within that 1 week, and I think it's going to be super chaotic where people will probably freak out a little bit. And I just say, calm it down. So, my midfield, the other one I can't go past is Sarong. Only 9% owned. I don't get it. Brayshaw probably pushing a little bit further out. Fife may come in for a pinch, but Sarong's their main heavy lifter, and I think with their best buy, they only share it with Port, which means you're covering that whole. You're getting premium numbers the whole season. When there's only 2 teams missing in its best 18, you are not going to miss Sarong's score, and that's only once for the whole year. Based on the fact that I think you'll pick up an extra few points because of the early games won't have a bye. During his bye, you're not really going to lose much, which means he's probably 5 to 10 points more attractive than others around him. So again, back to my strategy, high hurt factor, high ceiling factor. I'm looking for those that go 120 plus more often. The odd low game, sure, if they go an 80 or 90, I'm going to lose 10, 15 points on the 100 consistent guys. Sure, I can accept that. But when they go 170, 160s with high hurt factor, that's the risk reward I think you have to kind of take with some of these players. So, Bontempelli, Dacos, Sarong, Butters is the other one. Again, high ceiling, high hurt factor, good buy. So the exact same thing I just said about Sarong. He's also the one I don't think is going to really change much from that midfield as per se. He's also the type that scored 90, nearly 100 in a half of football. A little bit fragile sometimes, so that's why I want to kind of start him, so that way if I do have to trade him, I can just trade him out rather than going, oh my God, I need Butters, trade in, trade out scenario. So that's why he's kind of in my side, and I'm waiting for him to prove otherwise, basically. So Butter's also fairly heavily owned, 32%. So let me have a look at the others here. So I'll go with 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me just check what I produced earlier. And the other one I am considering, and this is a bit of a toss-up because I have considered like Dawson. I like, but I want to see what they're doing with their midfield. Petrarca, if Oliver has an issue and it looks like it's no good and they're still playing Petrarca, midfield predominant, I could be tempted by that. But Merritt is another one. They have a fairly soft draw. Once they get to about Richmond, I think it's maybe round 8 to 12. I think they have a few softer games. West Coast, Richmond. I say Richmond, I expect them to be lower, and not, it's not a negative. They've been so good, and they've still got some really great quality, and they've still got a really good forward line with some good defense. So I could be surprised. They just might have a little bit of a lull to kind of, get some good draft picks and get some good caliber before Tasmania come in. If you rebuild when Tasmania is picking the pockets of the draft, it'll be, it pains me when Brisbane bottomed out after all their finals and after they tried to peak with Voss and whatever. GWS and the sunny Gold Coast came in, and it was really hard for Brisbane to rebuild outside of making bad choices with some of their draftings, but it made it really hard for them to get back up into the scope of things. So I think if you're going to bottom out, it should be like Hawthorn, etc. Probably that's the best timing. And North to try and, I say North bottomed out. They've been bottomed out for years. But yeah, so Richmond, I think, could drop a little bit. We'll see how we go. But yeah, Zach Merritt's the one I've kind of considered here, looking at about a 5-deep scenario. I think there's plenty of good rookies that you should be able to balance out your team a little bit and go from there. Now, outside of that, it is quite a bit speculative. I'm waiting to see, Clayton Oliver could come in, Dacos could go back into defense, and I would happily start, Clayton Oliver instead of Stewart, etc. So we'll see how we go. But that's the sort of rationale on things. Dawson, I could be swayed on. Dunkley, etc. I could be swayed on. Walsh, I could be swayed on. Noah Anderson, I could be swayed on. So that's why it's a little bit up in the air for that extra midfield spot. And there's so many already dominating. If I have 5 midfielders here, I only have 3 more spots. And I could easily pick 3 more people to fill that spot. Whereas in defense, there's not that many outside those top sort of 4 to 5 that you go, oh, I really want that person, which means I just want to get that person. And then see some more data from the midfield because there are 15 of them that can still score really well. And I'll wait and see for some more data on that to bring them into my side. So, rookies. And I need a sip on this one. The Kirchner possibly because he's apparently playing the Sheasel role-ish from last year, so a bit of that extraction. Fisher did come in from Carlton to North, however, I think had a bit of an injury setback, so they could be the extractors. It'll be interesting to see. Makes sense though, I guess. Good user, fast, elite, agile. It makes sense. He could be a really good handful for off the halfback there and ease him in. There is a blueprint for it. I mean, hell, even Harley Reid is looking at doing the same thing because West Coast are like, oh, what a great blueprint from Dacos and Sheasel. Let's just ease them in and teach them some footy and bulk up a little bit. All right, so Sanders apparently killing it. All the match sims been matched up on, I think, Bont sometimes doing really impressive work. At the Dogs, I think in about 3 of the articles I've seen post trainings that they've posted out there, he's been listed in every single one doing extremely well. So I think he earns a place in my side at this current point in time. Jai Clark as well, an experienced body, should get some more opportunity. However, it'll be really interesting to see with Guthrie coming back in, Atkins developing, and a few of those other sort of changes into their side, whether he does get a decent enough role. But he, again, in the system for a year, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt as a bit of a placeholder for that. Sharp, hoping maybe that Chapman takes a bit more of the role from him, but Damo from former Jock Reynolds is a bit of an advocate, I think, and thinks he will take a bit of a spot on that wing or the attacking wing, which means that at his price, he's kind of hard to ignore. I'm ignoring a few sort of people that are heavily owned I'm looking at least one forward DPP. So, senior, I can't even know how I say his name, to be honest. So I do apologize for that. But Geelong mature recruit should get some games, you would expect, for the fact that they brought him in. I'm kind of passing on Curtin. Adelaide, I know he could be in defence, but it's yeah, you need to kind of see it. It's a little bit of that inflated price as well, 175. I think I'm going to pass on that. We'll see how we go. The other one is Dersma as well. I know he kicked 3 goals in a quarter, but again, he kicked 3 goals against North in a quarter. I'm not sure if I like that forward kind of hybrid as a rookie. I mean, we've seen it before. Even Filippo, around, he was actually cheaper. He was 160k, and even that was a slow burn. And Gold Coast as well. You look at that price; it's a slow burn. I don't know if I want a guy that's 193,000. That might be a bit up and down and reliant on goals to actually do well. So I think he's a great player. I think it's almost like a Heaney-esque kind of mold. I could be surprised when I see him. However, I just don't know if I like that kind of role for a first-year player as far as Supercoach to make money. And it's hard because, I could almost go Walters instead for a similar price. And that sounds really horrible to say. And this is probably one of the most controversial things that I possibly have ever said as far as a rookie. If I could just, let me try and just bring it up from cheapest to more expensive. But it could be one of the most controversial things I've ever said because no one ever picks a key forward over a player like Dersma. And the reason is because key forwards score horrible. It's proven. I mean, look at Cadman, number 1 draft pick, and he was a mobile forward like a Jeremy Cameron who normally scores quite well. They just don't do well. They need time in the system. They come up against bigger bodies. It's hard work. The systems, you have defenders that are better than obviously juniors because they're now professional athletes and have been defending for many years. So it is interesting. However, when you bring in the mix of, just trying to find him. Where did he go? Jeez, I don't even know. Gold Coast, he's obviously not on my piece of paper, so I'm going to see if I can find him. Maybe, I know why. It's because I'm in the bloody midfield. Jeez, look, everyone's rusty. Walter. Now, I would never pick Walter based on the price. However, if anyone has seen the footage of this guy on almost like I think it was about a wing or a half forward, absolutely chase and mow somebody down and absolutely bury them. This guy is the most competitive forward I have ever seen, and he's a big boy. We're talking man body already, scaring people around that age group when he was coming out. He's just an absolute wrecking ball. Now, I don't know if that's going to convert to Supercoach points. However, he is someone that I've seen absolutely chase down quickly and put pressure on. You don't see forward pressure like that. That's controversial. I probably like Walter short term. I don't know if it's Supercoach relevant. Dersma long term, yes. I just don't know if Dersma is going to be scoring as much. I won't be picking Walter either, by the way, but I was just trying to think about that thought process on how I would almost pick Walter over Dersma. I don't think that's gonna stick. No one quote me on that. I'm just trying to prop up Walter, but also talk down Dersma, and I don't think any of them are actually any good value. So ignore me. But yeah, Dersma, I am keen for a keeper leg though. By the way, I think it's definitely somewhere I'd go. He is a talent that hits the X factor, hits the board. I'm hoping he kind of turns into like a Rosie sort of type or a Heaney type, except, actually takes the next step, unlike Heaney, as far as Supercoach in my keeper leagues, etc. And the last one, let me go for a percentage owned. I'm looking at a few different players. So, I mean, there's like Sin, there's a few others. There's a pretty good mix of players. I mean, I'm even looking at, I think there's a forward as well. So I'm even looking at like a Wilson in that spot. Kirchhoff, Sarong, Wilson, Sharp, Sin. Yeah. So, yeah, Wilson will probably go in the forward line. So pretty much that's about it. And then Wilson will go up into this spot here. Oh, you're going to wait until the end. All right. So ruck line is going to be interesting. I'm starting, and I'm not saying I'm extremely happy with it, Grundy and Gawn, mainly because I I do want English. He's had a little bit of a setback. He wasn't well. I don't think they specified too much other than saying he hadn't really trained much for 2 weeks. And they're like he's been ill for a couple of weeks. And then they said he's not really going to train full sim or whatever it is, or back to full peak until 2 weeks after that. So into early Feb, which for a guy like him and his body type, so like that ectomorph type, and I've known some similar, they drop, if they're not well, they can tend to drop a bit of weight. Now I'm assuming, and I'm making assumptions that illness, right? Maybe not lifting weights, maybe not running, putting or whatever he's got going on. I'm assuming if he's not playing, match sim and the rest of it, if he's just training, he's probably not lifting weights. He might not have an appetite if he is unwell, and he might be dropping some kgs. Now, if he has dropped a couple of kilos, that could impact his performance around the ground and the dominating force that he is. That and the expensive price point. So that's why he's kind of not in my side. He's the one I would like to get in, and Gawn or Grundy could be flipped. They're both there because they both play round 0 and for the price point. So Gawn without Grundy did extremely well. Grundy without Gawn did extremely well. Out of those two, it's hard to kind of split. Now, I would probably, again, it would depend on preseason and round 0, but I'd probably lean towards Gawn and English based on some of that value, and we'll see how we go. Now, the value factor is, could I go and try and bridge that gap and go from Grundy towards an English? Could I make up a little bit of money? It's a lot. It's 235,000 difference. So can Grundy make a little bit of money early game, a little bit of a price point, and then if he's not working out, can English lose a little bit of money at the same time? And then could I correct it if it is an issue? Also, I could correct it the middle buy round. If one of those two wasn't working out and English was, I could look at it then. But yeah, I think English's ceiling again is extremely impressive. That during the buys, I think you want him. The fact that he also plays when these other two don't makes it much more attractive. So I think he will be there instead of one of them. I'm just not quite sure. And I do want to see him train and perform and actually look impressive, because the word was, I don't know, I just think it could just be me. I just don't think it was that great sounding. So I do want to see a little bit coming out of their camp before I sort of lock that away. Oh, wow, this is probably one of the longest pods I've done in a while. First team, this is my initial one with my thoughts. Sweet I've got here, mainly as a place setter. I do want to see that. I have looked at, was it Reed from West Coast coming back from injury? I've also looked at Naismith, who I think is also there in case of injury. And Sweet could also be there for injury. So we'll see how the ruck game sort of plays out. The other one is Conway could take that sort of spot. He's a little bit more expensive, but I think the safe play is for Sweet at this current point in time, which leaves not much money for the forward line. And I'm okay with not spending up in the forward line. If you have some injuries, at least it's best 18 for most of the sort of first 6 rounds. So it shouldn't actually be the biggest cost factor that you've ever had. One strategy is to consider going, okay, well, if it's best 18, I want to have 12, 13 premiums if I can, and maybe save a little bit on a couple of areas, 13 premiums, knowing that only 5 rookies are going to actually count. So I don't care if I have these 102K, 117K, 120K rookies on my pine, because if they I only need 5 people to score me a 60 to an 80, maybe spike a couple of good scores, take 360s, take 280s, and then all of a sudden you've got a killer side because you have more premiums. So that's one thing I am considering. Do I really need a Chapman, etc., filling up those extra spots and picking me up maybe an extra 10 to 20 points? Or do I want the extra premium and going cheap knowing that there's a lot of buys? So I'm trying to save money forward because the premiums aren't there. is definitely room to move. I'm looking at role. So is there a forward that's getting that midfield role? When we look at last year, Dunkley was a forward playing mid. Easy. The role was there. He scored well. Goulden was a forward, but he was playing midfield sort of spots, etc. So the role was there. Most years, people that lose DPP from forward going into mid are always the top sort of 6 forwards for the year before. Which means that we lost Taranto, we lost Goulden, we lost Dunkley, we lost Rosie, we lost Butters, we lost so many because midfield, more opportunity, more points, higher scorers. I'm looking for someone like that, or I'm hoping, and I say hoping, go cheap. I'm not trying to pick a speculative, Flanders or a Jackson unless there's an injury, etc. Wait for the dust to settle on that. Wait till round 6. Do we get lucky? Do we get a Petrarca as a forward DPP? Do we get a Bontempelli? Do we get, whoever it might be? We've had it previous years. So if someone, and try and hope that maybe there's one or two of these midfielders that spike DPP. Does Rosie come back in to a forward? Does something happen to a forward where they then look like they might get DPP? And then I'll go extremely aggressive once those DPPs hit to then try and get some more security in my forward line, and that will be one of the first things I'm targeting. Midfield's got some good depth. Defense has got some great depth. Rucks look like they're fairly set. I will be moving hell and earth if there are 1, 2, 3 good forwards. And the more there are, the faster I'm moving. And I can tell you that for sure. And if there's anyone that looks like a really good premium, I am going to, go hard and fast to get that done. And I want to be one of the first people that owns them because I want that stability in my forward line. That's probably the strategy I'm looking at. And it is a little bit of wait and see. I don't see the point in having those extras there. However, again, more trades. Start a Dylan Moore if you think you'll get lucky. Start a Flanders if you think you'll get lucky. Start a Jackson if you're happy with that. And go that route. So I don't mind Jackson as a bit of a backup. If you have a forward swing option during a bye round, if for Gorn or Grundy, throw Jackson in the forward line. He's also good cover. If there's an injury, should still be around the top 6 to 10 mark, assuming Darcy is still injured. But again, it's that risk you're assuming Darcy does get injured on and off and will continue to do so. So that's the kind of risk you have with that one. So forward line. Let's go with, I am bringing in McRae more because consistency, I know his role has changed and a few things have shifted progressively. Smith out, I think, does give him some kind of stability, regardless of harms, regardless of anything else. I think it does secure him some CBAs, some wing rotations, which makes him viable. And he's the only one that I think should still definitely be top 10. Top 6, yeah, sure, could be a stretch. I wouldn't argue with anyone if they kind of dissed him a little bit. However, when you look at the rest of them, I'm not picking up a key forward. I don't think Bolton's very up and down and sporadic. So is Dusty. Caleb Daniel is as well. And then you get into a mix of key forwards, small forwards, or hybrids like Flanders, who is pushing up from forward into a stoppage and then has a new coach. It makes it really hard to pick anyone with any stability, which is where preseason does actually determine what you're going to do. So McRae is in this side, and then you're looking at splattering. I'm putting Harley Reid second because that's pretty much where we're at, by percentage based anyway. Finley McRae, I could be convinced on. A couple people leaving. I also think Sidebottom's getting a little bit older. Pendles is getting a little bit older. Maybe they'll move Pendles into defense a little bit for some security. Maybe Sidebottom will then push a little bit more forward to try and keep his body preserved for finals, etc. And when they need him to kick 65 meters, Chris, the longest kick he's ever done for a goal to seal the game, they'll probably keep them for that class element. If it was me, I'd want to try and preserve them as much as possible. Try and give some of these young players a chance to put in the bulk of the work, to put in the grunt, to put their bodies on the line, to do the hard yards. And I think McRae's probably earned his time. And if he doesn't do it this year, he could very well be delisted. So it's also a good chance to maybe to been dominating, I think, in the VFL. Give him a chance, give him some go-to early and hope that he impresses with the opportunity he gets. So that's where we're kind of at with that one. The next two are looking at, again, a little bit speculative. Fife and Billings are the next two, based again on price point. Two players who could go 80 odd. Fife mainly because had a bad run last year and heavily owned. He looks like he's getting his body right. It's a progressive system, so I don't know if you're going to get the best from him early. Match sim though, he's been in the midfield matching up on was it Mitchell Johnson? Is it Mitchell Johnson? Yeah, Johnson. Playing some CBAs, playing some midfield, and then pushing forward. I think Fremantle, the coach, knows he needs to make finals, and why wouldn't you be getting Fife involved in that? They've got some great other people. You've got this really great spearhead that you haven't had to utilize. He doesn't have to do the crash and bash and the full lifting anymore, but he's a quality player. He's someone that I would like to kind of take the risk on based on how thin pickings the forward line is. I know those started him last year got burnt. I know bringing him in last year, some people got burnt. But it sounds like he's starting to get the body right, starting to feel pretty good. I mean, hell, I think he's had a shave and grown his hair a little bit, so that's also a plus. So he's someone I am looking at there. And Billings as well, based on price point, 243K. I'm assuming it's kind of on the wing. But when you have Langdon and you have Lockie Hunter, Mr. Seagull, also on the wing, I want to kind of see how that works out. So maybe it'll be Lockie Hunter might go back in or back on to help out in the back line to, maybe float around a little bit more, coming off the bench. And then Billings might go sort of wing and then to the forward line. And then Hunter and Billings might kind of go a bit of a switcheroo here and there. It's going to be interesting to see. He did have a bit of a hamstring strain, so I am kind of seeing how that plays out through the preseason. However, Billings could easily be, like a Tom Lynch or someone like that, especially, if Tom Lynch goes really well round 0. It is a possibility to sort of look at someone like that coming into the side as well. I think Richmond play round 0. And then the other one I am looking at is a almost like a Tom Lynch light. And Matt Taberner. So I could be convinced by Caddy, apparently off-putting some people, really, impressive crash and bash, etc. But again, a first-year player coming out, will he be consistent? If he starts to go semi-okay, will he get more attention? Will he get rested? All those kinds of things for someone at his price, as impressive as he is, I do want to see some preseason sort of stats and games, some practices to go with and support the good things that they are saying. That's where it kind of holds off a little bit as standoffish for me. And I'm kind of just waiting to see where the dust settles with that. So Tabata for me is building in, had some bad injuries last year. I think had back injury and some works with that. Building in nicely, barely missed a session through this preseason. I think it's his spot to sort of take. And even here's the probably part that probably sold me a little bit. They're doing some match simulation, probably some good old tips and hints from Collingwood. But Taberner's been, when it gets into the dying stages and the back end of the match sim and the scenario-based stuff, Taberner's actually been going back into defense to kind of make sure the other team doesn't score and trying to get some marks and everything like that, which tells me that I think you're pretty good and you're fairly fit if you're the guy that is then actually leaving the forward line to go and try and actually help out your defense to try and get some marks in, etc. That's an extra opportunity for some points and for some Supercoach points. So he is someone that has a high ceiling and can put a few goals on the board. Again, good buy as well. So he's someone that I wouldn't mind. It's almost like a Tom Lynch light. And if I can save 100K, I might just do so in the meantime. And then I'm looking at a couple of other cheaper options in that rookie line. Wilson is one, fairly impressive apparently. Put on some kgs, I think, before draft, and dynamic, explosive, a real athlete. So he's kind of a place setter. I don't know much about him, but he's heavily owned, which makes me more intrigued. And then I've kind of got Darcy in here, so I do have 80K to play with. Again, the one for me, if I was going to look at making moves, it might be depending on how the preseason goes, you might look at a Himmelberg. I still think Himmelberg could go have a Sicily type year. Building in a good age bracket, intercept marker, disposals. I think it's the stability now could almost make it better for him. So that's why I kind of don't mind the Himmelberg train. There are some midfielders that are slightly cheaper, like Tuke and Steele, that could attract me. So I'm waiting to see to really be impressed. With Tuke and his role and the new coach and Steele, is he back to his best? And then how does that sort of midfield mix kind of go through. So it'll be really interesting to see that sort of mix there. And then I would be looking to get in English, which would pretty much be where we sit with that side of it. So would I rather English and English and Himmelberg, or would I rather have Stewart and Grundy? So that is a debate for another day. Let me know what you think. This is my side. It is nowhere near perfect, but I hope at least with some of the rationale I've tried to give you as far as, or once the team's complete, I've got to move it. At least some of the thought processes as far as how I'm kind of approaching this season. Mid-price madness with heavy upgrades could definitely be a strategy. And I hope someone stands up. It's almost like the real Slim Shady of Supercoach. Like I'm hoping the real forward will stand up and that we have a Goulden or someone else that's going to, take a hold of that midfield and give us some of those opportunities to make it work. So we'll see how it goes. Look, it's a work in progress. I'm pretty happy with most of it. I'm not sure on some of those rookies, the expensive ones, McKercher, etc. There's quite a few there that are expensive. We'll see. Hopefully some rookies stand up and I can fit in another premium or two. The strategy with this one, though, being that, I think it was instead of 12, it was 11 premiums, but then you have quite a few, your Merritts, your Zach Williams, your Fife, your Billings, Reed, McKercher, Gibcus, Chapman. So more of these expensive types where you're hoping these 250K, like Chapman hopefully gets up to like 350, close to 400 if you're lucky. Make 100K, one down, one up, and then all of a sudden that 350 is up into 455. So you're hoping to go Chapman from 250 up towards 400. Throw the down a rookie, put 100 to 150, balance it out, and then going essentially from Chapman to a premium. And then you're going one down, one up, premium, one down, one up, premium. And then all of a sudden, Zach Williams, Chapman, Billings, Fife become 4 premiums averaging you 110. And that would be the ideal scenario, I think. That's where their role does help. That's where you can actually use them to your benefit to really be aggressive and use them as stepping stones. Otherwise, if you have only rookies, it's easier to upgrade to a full premium side with lots of rookies and a gun rookie scenario to upgrade them by the buy or during the buys. The amount of times that you have this guns and rookies scenario where you're still trying to go, you have to go 2 down and 1 up. Where are the rookies at? And that was the one big thing. Rookies always stand up, yes. However, sometimes you get stuck going, where are the rookies? I need a rookie to debut so I can then downgrade to somebody. Otherwise, I've got someone here I want to cash in, but there's no one to go to. And then it's 2 down, 1 up, 2 down, 1 up, or 2 down, 3 down sometimes, 1 up. So you need to get multiple rookies in order to upgrade another rookie to a premium, which is why I don't mind that sort of strategy here where you have some of those mid prices and use them as a stepping stone, because you also know those premiums are generally going to get cheaper. Your Sicilies, your Stewarts, your Bontempellis, they're going to get cheaper. So don't start lots of people that are going to lose cash and then also have so many really cheap rookies that you have to wait so long to actually cash it in to get another premium. So I think this is kind of the strategy with a bit of a blend. Ideally, in defense and forward line, I would love to go a 2 premium, 2 mid-price, 2 rookies, and then kind of have at least a couple in each spot to upgrade. However, with dealing with what we've got, I think you need to go the extra premium in defense with probably even an extra mid-pricer in that sort of line, and then have one less in the forward line to kind of balance it out and look for value. But that's it. Wow, that's a lot longer than I was expecting. Let me know what you think. Welcome back. Hopefully you've enjoyed this and enjoyed having me back on the screens. Let me know what segments you would like in this preseason, and I will try and help and deliver. That's it. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.